sometimes you have to do the hard things to be happy, right? You have to put yourself in a position that makes you uncomfortable. And it's so easy to avoid. It's so easy to say, that's not what I want, right? It's so easy to take the easy route. And it doesn't matter what age you are or where you are in your life. Undoubtedly, you have learned at this point that there are certain elements of your past, there are certain ventures that you've embarked on and that you've initiated that have been tough, that have been a desperate time and a desperate measure, and you've been sweating and maybe even have shed tears over it. And when you look back on that moment, you realize how much you've grown. You realize that where you are today is more improved, is absolutely better because of it. And that is an interesting thing, I think. It's interesting that we avoid it initially, and yet we realize that it helps us.
Yeah, and as you're talking about this, it makes me think of just parenthood in general, motherhood specifically. My idea of what motherhood would look like did not match up to reality. Anyone that's been a parent realizes it is way harder than you could have ever imagined. Viewing it from the sidelines in someone else's life, you're like, oh, I would do that differently. Oh, I don't know why they do that. But actually being in the trenches and being a parent has been extremely hard work, but it's been the most rewarding, and so I think of our son Mac. One thing that we do that is not taking the easy way out is he doesn't watch much TV. He probably gets about an hour, if that, of screen time every day. But how easy would it be to say, oh, I got to do this, let me just put on the TV for you, and 30 minutes turns into an hour, turns into 2 hours, turns in, okay, we'll watch some more later on tonight. And so the hard thing, right, is to be present, to play with him, to be involved, to be patient, because it's inevitable that he's not going to be happy at all times. And so, not taking the easy way out with Mac and being present and being involved, those moments, the things that have come from those moments have been the most rewarding. My love for Mac, I have never experienced anything like that towards him, and the way he's able to reciprocate it, I don't think anyone's loved me nearly as much as he does. That unconditional love, especially, at 2.5 years old, the love that he has for his mother is just, it's indescribable.
And all that presence and all that extra effort that you put in is rewarding. And to think about the memories that you build and that I build with him, and collectively, it would be easier to distract him with a screen. It would be easier to go a different route with it, right? To not always be that present. And sometimes, like you said, the presence does lead to little temper tantrums or the inevitable, but we get the raw deal. We get the full picture. And and all the memories and the experiences that we've had built off of that are incredibly rewarding. I think it reminds me just of how aware he is of our presence too, and I think that's important to mention. Is that I remember so vividly playing with him on the floor, and then and we were playing with some cards or something, and I got up to go into the other room to grab something, and when I got up, he immediately started calling, "Daddy, Daddy, where are you?" And that was about a year, maybe a year ago or so. He was about 1.5 years old. And that's a pretty natural response. Where are you? I got up and physically left the room. But there was another time shortly thereafter where my phone vibrated in my pocket. And it was a text message, and I just simply took my phone out right in front of him. And we were still on the floor together. And I'm scrolling through. And all of a sudden, he looks right at me. And as I'm looking down, he goes, "Daddy, Daddy, where are you?" Same exact response. He realized I wasn't present, right? Even though I was physically there, I wasn't mentally there.
You weren't mentally there, and he recognized that.
And I was taking the easy route, right? I was saying like, oh, I'll just have that, no big deal. I'll do 2 things at once. Doesn't always work, the hard thing, putting that phone aside, being 100% present, not trying to do 2 things at once. That was what was most meaningful for him, and ultimately, it's what's most meaningful for us, right? Because we're there. to pay attention, to hear, to build those little memories that we wouldn't have otherwise.
Mm-hmm. And I think also, one of the hard things is change, right? Accepting change. When Mac was first born, we thought we could still do it all. We could still, continue to grow the business and achieve the sky. But for us, we had to reevaluate what success looked like in our eyes, and that was tough. And so we had to say, okay, before this is what my life looked like, but now family is just as important. It's not just the business; it is family. So now, what does success look like in our eyes? And that was challenging for us.
It was.
But now we're in a very good place where we're able to say, okay, family is just as important, if not more important, than the business. And when we are with Mac and with each other, we want to be fully present. And when we are working, we want to be fully present. So we're able to separate the two.
Yeah, and that's not an easy thing to do. Again, I mean, it's so much easier. It's so much easier to try to juggle it all at once. To try to be, I mean, not to try to be, but it's really just being unintentional. It's so easy to not plan it out. To say, oh, well, I'll get it done when I get it done. Especially, I mean, Angel and I might have a unique situation, right, where we have a business that we run together. And so we can bleed everything into each other if we want to, right? Family, business. To do that is a disservice to our family and to our business. And realizing that and being intentional and planning accordingly and having a planner and having some time management skills built into our days is not easy. But it ultimately makes us happier and more effective in all areas of our life. And realizing that is incredible. So think about how that relates to your life. Think about how doing the hard things, how doing a little bit of planning, how embracing the present moment for what it's worth so that you can make the best of it, right? Because it's not always about saying, oh, positivity is just about accepting it as it is and just, faking a smile. It's really about being positive, making the best of a hard situation, of a difficult situation, so that you can ultimately put your best foot forward, so that you can make the best of it. That's what it's about. It's not about being cliched in a way that oh, let me just put a fake smile on, but let me just do what's right here. Let me put a little bit of extra effort into this, so that I have no regrets.
Yeah. And so my question to you is, what hard thing have you been putting off that the rewards will be outstanding?
Yeah.
So I challenge you to do that, to take the right steps forward, to begin the process of doing the hard thing and reaping the rewards.